work, as a matter of fact. For some reason he felt that he had to do this. He did it, and then his life ended.
Oh my!
Like,
may I buy one?
Yeah, I'll bring them. I'll bring them on Sunday, God willing, on Sunday.
Or bring them here.
And I'll bring them here too, if I remember. I will once I dig them out of the garage, because I threw them all in a box. I have about 15 of them.
That's wonderful.
Of the manuscripts. Pardon?
Are we having class on Sunday?
God willing, why? Is there something on Sunday? That's my day. If I don't come to class, you know what happens on Father's Day? Of course, it's clean out the garage day. But I did that already last week. Do it again. Get busy, Dad. Get busy. Okay, fine. Okay, once again, I want to just reiterate, to mention again, since we are recording here, please reserve your questions to the end. Okay?
You have a class 12:30 tomorrow.
Better ask all the questions now. Come on, stock up.
You have a class tomorrow at 12:30 here.
12:30, I have a class tomorrow here at 12:30. Yes, on my book, Creating Angels. And 12, I also do a class in Missouri City at 7:30 at Temple Bethel.
I don't know how to get there.
Yeah, and then on Dreams. And then there was something else I needed to announce. I forgot what it was. Light, dude. Yeah, bring it. That's great. I was like, sometimes I like the dark, you know. I like the vacated space. How's everybody vacated space been? Yeah, has everybody been hanging out in the vacated space? Good. Okay, how's your vacated space treating you? Okay? Not really. Oh, this thing. What do I do with it? What?
12:30?
12:30 tomorrow afternoon. And then there was some other announcement I needed to make, and I forgot what it was.
Tomorrow night?
That's the class on dreams. You can even tune in on Facebook. You can even tune in 12:30 on Facebook, and Sunday. And then that's all the announcements I need to make. Okay. Besides the fact that I'm going to have to probably leave here at 5 of, because I have to go pick up my daughter at the airport. Are we ready?
Yes.
Take a deep breath, everybody. Okay. Okay. So anyone can order, by the way, these books. We have copies available. You can contact Torch. You can contact me via email at ycohen@torchweb.org if you would like to order a copy of the book. And we can also send you a digital copy for any of those who are listening in. We're in Chapter 2. Chapter 2 begins on page 15, talking about the 5 universes and the 5 levels of souls. Just when you thought that you got out of the tzimtzum. And the tzimtzum that we translate once again was the constriction or contraction. God had to make a stage. He had to make a vacated space with which creation can be formed and creation can be made. Of course, we did discuss a little bit, and I didn't bring you the full picture, that we discussed there were 3 purposes of creation, actually, that how my father-in-law said. One was within the other. If you look at it like almost like 3 circles, one within the other. The outer reason that the Arizal did bring down was in order to be called compassion, merciful, in order to have the expression of those midot, those character traits. That was the outer, or let's say they call that the surface, external reason to be called Rachum v'Chanun. That he should be called these nicknames. That was the external one. The inner one, which we've been discussing, was what's classically called reward and punishment. But we don't really look at it as reward and punishment. We look at it as consequences, choosing, okay? Meaning God made a world in order to bestow pleasure. And it went up on his mind to make a creation in order to receive that pleasure. And that pleasure couldn't take it because he needed to earn it. It wasn't the right relationship. And therefore God made the world. He put us, basically, the souls in the world. And with the power of our choosing to have a relationship with God, then we get to choose that the depth, the quality, the richness of the creation, and we can also choose also to run away from the Creator. Hence, we call that reward and punishment. That's reason number 2. Meaning, If you don't choose to have it all, then you get to choose how much less than all you will have. Okay? It's just a consequence of our choices. Really, we don't look at it as God punishes. It's just always looked at as consequence. Okay? That's the second reason. I didn't bring you the third reason, and the more in-depth reason. And the more in-depth reason was revealing God's unity. The highest possible, we'll call it experience of God, is to see that God is all there is. Ein od milvado, we say in Hebrew, that there's nothing else other than God. That no matter where you turn, no matter what, you just see God. God is everywhere. He's everything, and you see the unity. You feel the unity, and you're leaving the unity, and it will be revealed. Okay? I just felt that I didn't quite give you that. Finish it off. Okay? In terms of the three reasons of creation. Questions at the end. Okay. Now, there is some kind of things that I just have to start off with. Sometimes, my father-in-law, he lived in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel. I mean, he did for many years. And sometimes, a lot of times I'd hang out there and I wanted something to eat. And he could be sitting at the table there talking with his friends or guests. If I go to the fridge, I look in the fridge and I'm trying to look, and in Israel, sometimes, and the way my father-in-law's situation financially is, I'm looking at maybe a half-eaten yogurt, a hard-boiled egg, and some mud butter. And that'd be it, okay? So as I would be looking in, right, you might want to get a book.
I have.
Okay, great.
I'm ready.
Okay, don't forget questions, write down. So here I am standing looking at the refrigerator trying to look for something. And he would turn to me and he'd go, it's astur l'stakel b'chalal panui. It's forbidden to stare at the vacated space. Okay? So I'm like going, wow, that's really profound. Okay? So the idea, the vacated space, it is forbidden to stare, to gaze at the vacated space. Okay? Because a lot of times we have those vacated spaces and it can take us down to certain levels where we don't necessarily want to go. But I need to share with you something very dynamic. Because the question was asked by the Sulam, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag, who was a rabbi in the 50s. Actually, he was pre-World War II, escaped from Poland and became the Rav of the neighborhood, Curated Moshe. And he says, if God was everything, absolutely everything, and he filled all of existence, what was it that he created that was outside of himself that did not exist before? What could possibly be the real depth behind this vacated space? Okay? What was it? If he was filling all of existence and everything is nothing outside of him, it's one simple light, what is it? And so the answer is, it's called ratzon lekabel, which means will to receive. Because don't forget, God is will to bestow. So what was created outside of God's mindset, so to speak, if you can call it that? Will to receive. All of the universe, all of the vacated space, all of the stuff that we'll call creation in its basic root form is made up of what's called will to receive. And now we're going to understand more of that, because that basically makes every single thing our essence. And I said that to my father-in-law. I'm going, that's the only difference between us and God, is just the will to receive? And of course my father-in-law says, that's all the difference, okay? Because it's so big, okay? But it's meant to be. It's meant to be. Okay? So you have Ratzon Lehashpia. God's only will is to bestow. And the only things that are outside of him that basically make up the vacated space and everything that we're going to talk about is full of different levels or different degradations of will to receive. Okay? So in the last section, we discussed the vacated space and the ray, just when you thought you were getting out of it, extending into it. Okay? Oh, that ray. That kav. What is that kav? Okay? In order to understand the concept of the universes, right? We must further delve into the details of the ray. The ray has details. Actually, everything has details. The ray, the kav, the tzimtzum. So starting here, v'hine b'hiyot or ha'ensof nimshach v'bechinet kav. Now that we had, if you recall, that there was this vacated space in a spheric form, we'll call that a sphere, and we'll talk about that why. But when you have that sphere, and then you'll have what we call last week this ray that comes into from one place, from the light that exists outside the sphere, into the vacated space, a concentrated ray. So when the light of the infinite is drawn in the aspect of this line, this ray, straight into the empty space, it does not draw down straight, like what I told you last week. It doesn't go straight down. It goes down slowly. I'm going to describe that. What does that mean? That in the beginning, first, this light now extends into this dark vacated space, and it extends to the entire fill of this vacated space. Okay? And then what's going to happen is, it's going to extend little by little, but each time it goes little by little, something else is going to happen. And this is where we get the many circles that's going to be within this ray. Okay? So what does it mean by making a circle round about? When it goes in, it makes a circle. You see the picture below, it has a lot of pictures, 1,000 words. So this is how it works. This process repeats itself over and over again 10 times. Really, it's infinite times, just to cut to the chase. But we're going to look at 10 times now because it's simple for us. So I want you to picture you have a sphere that's very dark. You have to have a light that starts to penetrate inside. Of course, as soon as that light penetrates inside that sphere, it's going to fill up a little bit of an illumination inside that sphere. Right? Like you light a candle in a dark room. It'll extend. Somebody will notice a candle. The light might reach to the ends. This is a bright light. It reaches the entire sphere. But then what happens is, that light itself that fills up that sphere retracts again into the sides. Okay? So therefore, we formed, when it retracts again, it doesn't retract all the way to the edges. It retracts a little bit. Okay? So in other words, what we have is a circle inside of a circle. Okay? And then what happens is, again, this light extends a little bit more, brings light into the sphere, and then retracts again, but then again leaving against, now we have another circle, and then we'll have another circle. Okay? And then that happens where the light will extend the ray, fill the void, and then retract again. So it's a lot of filling and retracting, filling, retracting, but each time it goes in, it's not going to be the same. Because why? There's another layer. It's another layer, and it's distancing itself from around the source, which we'll call the light of the infinite, which is around the circle. Like we talked about, this is everything around here is the light of the infinite. So this ray goes in, fills it, and then is drawn back. Okay? And it draws back equally, and there's why we have all of these concentric circles like an onion, okay, inside here, okay? This is how the light draws down, and each time it draws down, you'll see now you have two functions. You'll have circles inside of circles, and you'll also have what you see in the ray itself. You'll have different lines in the ray. Here's where all the dimensions start, okay? Here's where all of the dimensions start to begin, because here's where you get a left and a right. Here's where you get a top and a bottom, an up and a down. Before that, when you just have circles, if you just have circles inside of circles, you really don't have much dimensions to work with. But now, we have what's called the ladder, okay? And this ladder serves many functions. This ray now serves many functions, okay? So here we go. Next page. Within each and every, it's almost like, as soon as like you're in the dark spot, and you get a little bit of light and you can breathe, all of a sudden the wind is knocked out of you. It's like, imagine the wind getting knocked out of you 10 times, okay? You fall apart. Actually, the Hebrew word, I believe, is plots, okay? So, in each and every contraction, there is a great concealment of light. With each and every degradation, there is more distance from the light of the infinite, the Or Ein Sof. So when this happens, what happens? Then we have, along with having a series of concentric circles, one within the other, we also have somewhat similar effect on the ray itself. So here we have this picture here, and here what's going to have one of the innovative ideas is what the Arizal brought down. It's called the hit lav shoot, which is called the dressing. Okay, and here's where we get light and garment. Okay, or light and concealment of garment. Okay, so if I have a marker here, right? So let me do this, if this works. Let's pray it works. Okay, right? So if we have, works. Okay, so we have the light comes down through here. Okay, with each and every time it fills up and backs up. Okay, this light is going to dress. Okay, on the light that is going to come in. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to draw this because the diagram didn't really give you much of a picture. But let's look at it as like this. Each time in each one of these lines is going to dress a little bit over the original middle line. And then when it goes down into this other realm here, this other area, this area being more concealment is going to make a dress over this and this. And then this is going to now dress over all of these. Okay? Until finally the end. Okay? I don't know if you can get that picture, but basically what you see here, in this picture here, is this is just how the line would look like by itself, but really the line is connected with all of these circles, because the circles are making these garments for this one line. And we're going to see what this gets to. Very abstract, don't you agree? Like, what are you talking about, right? Yeah, that's why they say that, sometimes, you have to have a certain head for a Kabbalah, but this is the beginnings of the map, as we're going to get into, okay? We spoke about that Kabbalah basically is divided into like 3 basic types. One is, we call it theoretical, one is meditative, and one is practical. So in the theoretic Kabbalah, you have to understand it as like a map, and it's drawing a map of the spiritual realm. So you have to understand what's going on and where are you, okay? So that's what we're doing here. With each one, so in each time that this line comes down, it's going to be dressed on the world that is lower and lower and lower. Hence you have here, you'll have this middle line right here. That's the center, the most highest light possible. Very concentrated. And each time it goes down, it is dressed on the world that is beneath it till it's finally dressed in 5 garments. Okay? So now these different contractions that we're speaking about make up what we call the different olamot. Olamot, I said, is a Hebrew word, and it usually translates as worlds, okay? But it is much more than that, okay? Because when you think about worlds, it's kind of like hard to wrap your head around. So these days I like to use the term dimensions, okay? But actually, if you look at the deeper meaning of the word olam, olam comes from the root elam, which means hidden or hide or to conceal. Okay? So just like we wear garments that conceal, they also reveal. Okay? So also God, He needs to dress down the light. It's too bright. You got to filter it. You got to conceal it. Okay? And this is always when the intention is, and you got to stop when you're saying a bracha. Brachat Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. Right? We say Melech HaOlam. They translate loosely as King of the World. Right? But really it doesn't mean, it means, right? Melech HaOlam, King of what is hidden. Because you're so hidden. Okay? He's behind a veil. There was once this great story of Rabbi Nachman's stories. I advise everybody to go read them, but you got to read them good. And there's a great perush of Rabbi Kadmon. He explains one of the stories is where he was a man was sent on a mission to go get a portrait of the king, but the king always had himself behind a concealed garment, a veil, wouldn't let anybody see him. And how's this guy going to get a portrait of him when he's hidden behind, right? Behind a veil. Okay, he finds out exactly what's the problems with the land that he was in. And he finally got himself in front of the king, at least in the audience, he's in the room. But the king won't reveal himself, he's behind a garment. And finally the guy says, I understand what's really going on, is the whole world, the whole kingdom is full of sheker and lies. And you're really of truth. So that's why you just can't stand to be full of a kingdom where everybody's just involved in lies. Sounds familiar. Right? So after that, he's got the king's attention. Somebody's talking smart here. Finally, I get somebody who's got some sense. Then this person starts to say praises of the king. He says, wow, you're the one who rules everything. Even though you're behind the veil, you're still in charge of absolutely everything, and you're conducting with unbelievable justice. And finally he says these praises, and he says enough praises where the king says, I got to see this guy. And the king finally pulls away the veil. Okay? But the first idea is to understand there's a veil. Okay? It's a garment, but the idea really is once you recognize the king, once you recognize what's really going on, so then the king doesn't need to reveal, it doesn't need to conceal himself anymore. Okay? We have to go for it as much as possible. Okay? It's impossible to get a real view of the king, but we have to do what we can. So the idea really is of the blessing of a melech haolam, right? King who is hidden. Okay? King who is behind the veil. So the word for world in Hebrew is olam, right? It is also the same word as elam. These verses or dimensions are on a scale of descending magnitude of concealment, as we see in the diagram of the concentric circles, one within the other. Okay? So hence we have the outer circle is going to be what's closest to the light of the Ein Sof. And the farthest away we go from the light of the Ein Sof is going to be the farthest away. Okay? Hence, us way down here below. And each one of these is just a different veil or a different garment, as we have written here. The different degradations serve as this. One is filters. They allow us to draw near and still not be consumed by his infinite light. Okay, we are creations. We are meant to be exposed to have a relationship, but we are in baby steps. Okay, don't forget we are totally finite beings in a finite world, coming from a finite mentality and with finite perceptions. And here God's trying to shake bells and shake whistles to go ahead and wake us up a little bit. That there's something bigger going on. Okay? Garments have two purposes. This is really interesting. You got to meditate on this for the rest of your life. They conceal and yet reveal at the same time. Okay? So a garment could be hidden back up, yet it reveals something. Okay? So anytime you get come across an experience where it's a garment, no. There's something there. Okay? It should reveal something also. Okay? Just like when I wear a garment, I wear a suit, you can know that there's arms. As opposed to wearing what do you call those black glow robes that the ladies, the Islam ladies wear? Okay, forgot what they call us. Halabish or something like that. Burqa. Okay, 3 realms of consciousness, descending from above to below, the inner will, and we call that the highest will, draws down to final action, and the final action is clothed in the deepest will. That's a very dynamic thing we always have to understand. In other words, no matter what is existing here, within everything, just like what I did with this diagram picture, you have to know, this line here, coming from the highest light, the highest illumination, is still central. It extends all the way down. It's just dressed. Our job is to just get the peel off and reveal it. Okay? But it's there. You must know it is there. The highest light is here, right now. Okay? It's the big difference between a lot of people in trying to understand the tzimtzum, the contraction. Is God out there? Is God out here? And he's not in here? Therefore, that's how we relate to him? Is he's somebody out there to relate to? Or no, he's very much deep within, and we're very much intimate with him every single moment. Okay? And it's just, he's hiding. He's behind a veil. Okay? Ladder, the most important. Enabling us to ascend to higher realms of consciousness by giving us the ability to grasp it level by level. Okay? So the thing is, with this kav, which changed everything, okay, there's two basic ways, there's two basic hitnahagut, we'll say, ways of, we'll call it, hitnahagut translates as guiding force. There's two ways, two guiding forces in the universe we have, okay? There's the circles, and then there's the line, okay? The circles is the sun shines on everybody. The sun shines on the wicked as well as the righteous. Doesn't care, right? That's the circles. There's a certain manner of how God guides the world, and he just shines on everybody. Gives everybody light, everybody the ability to move and function. He doesn't distinguish. And then what we call here the line, the kav, that's more like, do you deserve it? We'll call that. We'll call it more like delineation, judgment, tit for tat, measure for measure. How are you behaving? Are you climbing? Are you working on yourself to grow? Or are you stagnant? Okay? Now, interestingly enough, someone brought a really amazing idea that kind of was bizarre. I think he quoted Rabbi Riskin, I think, but it was, it was an amazing chap. Korach, if everybody remembers the story, in the desert, there was a man who rebelled against Moses. His name was Korach. He was a Levi, and he had a great task, a great job, right? But what did he do? He came out and says, we all stood at Mount Sinai. We're all high priests. We're all just as connected. We don't need you anymore, Moses. Okay? So, what happened, right? He wanted to turn the world, have the world function in just circles. Okay? He just wanted to go back to, let's just stick with circles, because in circles, everybody's kind of equidistant from the light. Everybody experienced the light. Everybody's a priest. In my club, everybody's the high priest. Okay? He wanted to go back to that, to some degree. Okay, Moses says, that's not how God wants it. That's not how it's supposed to be. What does this kav do? What does this line do? This line is basically translated into, there's a mashpia and there's a nishba. There's a bestower and there's a bestowee. There's a rabbi, there's a student, there's a parent, there's a teacher. There's a parent, there's a child. There's a teacher, there's a student, there's a parent, there's a child. Everybody is constantly receiving and giving others. That's the bait of Breshit. The bait of Breshit is 2. The numerical value of Breshit is 2. 2 means what? If I would even write out the letter, interesting enough, this is the bait of Breshit, right? There's a bestower, and then there's a bestowee. There's 2. There's somebody giving, a woman, the man gives the woman the seed, right? There is a giver, there's a receiver. That's how God wants this dimension to function. There are infinite dimensions. Right now, this is how God wants it working. So therefore, Moses argued with Korach, and of course Moses won, and Korach didn't get to revert the world to just a circle-style world. Okay? Just to give you an idea of what it is, the way that God behaves or runs the world in these 2 functions. Okay? So anyway, so we have here ladder. That's the 4th one, which is basically us working in the ladder. Basically all of Kabbalah, nothing from here on in. You are not going to hear about the circles anymore. The Arizal says we only deal with the line. Because everything, our universe, everything about us growing has to do with the line. Okay? We don't deal with the circles. The circles, we'll leave it for the end of days. Okay, so now we have these circles. Basically, I said earlier there were 10 circles, but really, would you believe it, there are 5 circles. Okay? And one inside of the other. This is just for simplistic reasons. Really, to cut to the chase, there are infinity of circles. There's infinity of these, circles inside of circles. Spheres inside of spheres. It's infinity. Okay? Infinite number of dimensions. Each one is a dimension, and there are an infinite number of them. Okay? So the idea of, but for us, just to be simple so we can start to grasp, because I got to give you some of the jargon. Okay? You have to get the jargon down. Kabbalah has its own language, and you got to grasp the language, right? And God willing, you grasp the language, so then you get the concept, and then then you move further. So the first, which really is going to be amazing because it's probably the only time we're going to discuss it, is called Adam Kadmon. In other words, the first circle that is going to be the closest to the outside, the closest to the light of the infinite, it has a name, funky name, Adam Kadmon, which means primordial man. Okay? We really don't deal with this at all, and it's usually not used, this terminology in the Kabbalah. It's used, it's there, it's on the map, but as we describe here, it's so high, okay? Which represents the primordial will to create. Yet there is a lack of category in the mind, since it is completely attached to and united with the Ein Sof, the Or Ein Sof. It is referred to as nothingness. It also alludes to the ultimate purpose of creation. Okay? In this world right now, for us and how we are studying and how we are striving to grasp, we tend to not really deal with Adam Kadmon. Okay? Even though it's there. We know it's there. But the thing from Adam Kadmon comes everything else. Atzilut. Atzilut, which means nearness or manifest. Or emanation, some people translate it as emanation, which represents a level of reality that does not yet exist. Funky. It is a reality of the present and the future. And since we can only think in the present, our thought process cannot go there. It's something beyond what we can fully grasp. Because our minds work in past, present, and future. We need time. Time is like handles for us. So this is a place which is beyond time. Atzilut. Even though we say that there are some neshamos, some souls did come from the lowest part of Atzilut. King David, his soul came from the Malchut, we call it, of Atzilut. The lowest parts of Atzilut came from very high places, right? Still, nevertheless, I look at it as an ultra-gated community. No one goes there. And if you go there, you wouldn't be able to distinguish anything. Okay? This world is still fully absorbed into the divine and is also referred to as ayin, nothingness. It lies beyond the limits of human consciousness. The world of Atzilus is also called the domain of the Sfirot in undifferentiated form, as we're going to learn later. Only when they are clothed in the lower universes, the Sfirot can be conceived and separate forces. That we throw the word Sfirot in, that is always a term used in Kabbalistic doctrine, Sfirot, which we'll get to in later chapters. Basically, it's illuminations, okay? That God basically expressed himself in, we'll call it midot, character, we'll call it concepts. We'll talk about the Sfirot later. But basically, in all, there's 10 Sfirot. And these 10 Sfirot do come from the world of Atzilut. Okay? However, we only after they've exited the gated community can you go, okay, there's a Sphira here. Okay? But while it's in there, it's kind of undifferentiated. You can't tell one from another. Okay? So when we look at it like this, okay, so we look at this as Adam Kadmon, as the abbreviation is called Ak, okay? And then you'll have Atzilut, nearness, and then you'll have the next world, Bariya, Yetzira, and then you'll have Asiya. I think that's how I spelled it. Okay? Asiya. Okay? Right. So after Adam Kadmon comes Atzilut. Like we say, that's very high places, and the 10 Sefirot emanate, come from there, but they're not really distinguished until they come out from there. Okay? And then you'll have the next world, which is called Bria. Bria, which means creation, literally, and represents what we'll call the hand that makes existence accessible. In other words, here's where something is, we got something. There's something here. Okay? That's Bria. It is the beginning of separation. The world Bria also had in the Aramaic word bar, which means outside. It's because it's outside everything else that's before it. All this stuff is just, we're giving. I'm giving. Will to give. Bria is automatic, is something where there's got to be, okay, there's something different here. There's something of a receiving nature. Okay? It is also called the universe of the throne. Very important, the throne. Moshe Rabbeinu, he went up to go receive the Torah. And the angels were there that he encountered. And they're going, what are you doing here, earthman? Earth boy, born of a woman. What are you doing here? He says, I'm here to get the Torah. I was invited. No, you weren't. I'm going to go check. So they check with the boss, God. And they go, what is this earthman doing here? He's here to get the Torah. No, he's not. Okay? And that's when God told Moshe, hold on to my throne and answer them. So Moshe Rabbeinu held on to the throne of glory. And then he had a debate with all of the angels. And he says to God, what's in the Torah? It says, I am Hashem, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Commandment number 1. And he turned to the angels and says, you guys were ever in Egypt recently? And they go, no. Right? He went through each one of the 10 commandments, right? Right? What was the second commandment? Don't have any other idols. You guys are in places where there's idol worship going on? No. Right? Honor your parents. You guys got a mama or papa? No. Right? So they didn't have much to answer. He won. Okay? He won the debate, and after that, of course, the angels, they gave him all the gifts, their secrets. But the idea really, the question is, what does it mean that he held on to the throne of glory? Okay, what does that mean? Okay? So the idea really that Rabbi Nachman expresses is that is the place where all of the souls of Israel are honed, the quarry, a spiritual quarry. We all have chelek Elokah mima'al, a portion of God on high. We're all carved from the essence of God. This is how we say. That has an address in the spiritual realm called Throne of Glory. Okay, once again, I say this to all my students. Where are you from? Right? And if you say I'm from LA, no, you're not. I'm from the Throne of Glory. That is the real answer. Your body might be from LA, okay? But that's not where you're from. That's the whole idea here, okay? I come from the Throne of Glory. So we're coming out with TOG shirts next week, selling it like whatever. The thrones, okay, but what does it mean, throne of glory? God, this doesn't make any sense, Rabbi. God doesn't sit on a throne, but yet there's so many verses which speak about it. How do we understand it? It's conceptual, okay? It's conceptual. What does it mean? What does it mean? It means just like when you sit on a chair, what are you doing? You're lowering yourself, okay? So God, such a sublime form, lowers himself. Okay? So that's what I mean. It's the world of the throne. Here it's a whole new relationship. It's like a creation of a relationship of a king and a people. Okay? And we come from there. We come from a place higher than the angels. The angels, God wanted some volunteers to come down to this world because we had to go ahead and retrieve the sparks. We had a mission. There was some stuff to do down here. The angels like, no way, we can't handle it down there. Of course, only he had to get like the SEAL 6, what do you call it, the special team, right? Special forces. Only the special forces can come down here, okay? Hence, the real job of an Israeli, a person from Israel, Rabbi Nachman says in Israeli, is to have dominion over the angels. Your whole goal in life is just to have dominion over the angels. Okay? We'll get there. Okay? So the throne signifying a sense of lowering is when one, right, sits down, he lowers his body. So here God lowers his essence so as to be concerned with his creation. The term throne therefore represents what we call a vehicle through which he expresses such concern. It's an experience where God is involved. Okay? That's the world of Bria, creation. Something from nothing. Yetzira, the word Yetzira, which means formation. Formation is already something from something. If I form something, right? If I take wood and I build a table or clay and make a pot, that's already taking something that already existed and I just formed it. So formation, right? This, actually, I wrote down, just to cut to the chase, represents the world of speech. Thought. We're going to have thought, speech, and action. Get this. Okay? Thought, that's on the next page, which is related to the world of Atzilut, is the expression of something from nothing. What do you ever think of where do our thoughts come from? Speech, on the other hand, is expressed by the concept of something from something. It is also the realm of the angels, the world of Yetzirah, the world of the spiritual forces. And then finally, Asiya, right? Asiya means completion or made. Making, the world of making, which represents the final action and completion of creation. It wasn't always like that, though, like what it is now. Here is where the spiritual actually interacts with the physical dimension, bringing the entire continuum of the 5 universes into its intended fulfillment. So a lot of times what I'm going to do is just give you this kind of like thing. If you imagine, kind of funky as it might be, that imagine that sphere that we discussed at the beginning was not necessarily a hard substance that breaks, but let's look at it as like something which is elastic and stretchy like rubber. So if I took my finger, and you picture now there's many layers, and I put my finger through all the way to the center, okay? So my finger's going to be there, but it's going to be all the way to the center of this rubber ball with many layers. So it's going to be dressed, each one, right? As my finger presses through, there's going to be layers around the finger, okay? So here you have a different ideas, a lot of concepts here, what we discussed so far, okay? So one being, okay, is thought, word, and action. That's probably the most practical or graspable kind of thing. Thoughts come from the world of Atzilut, the highest level of our souls. Words come from Yetzirah. And then, of course, action is the body. The most dynamic thing that you really got to understand is it's all dressed. Because in the inner thing of everything, the most highest light is there. It's just concealed. It's just hidden. Okay? And here's another way that degradation is also viewed. Okay? We could look at Atzilut as all light. You know, Shimon Bar Yochai, we discussed this before, right? He also was on the level in his consciousness of all light. So like if you went to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and says, my buzz just burned down, he would go, great. Because he looked at it as all being the most awesome, best thing that could possibly be. It could be nothing evil. Okay? No matter what happened, nothing bad. Every single thing was the most perfect thing. A story. The Barditchever Rebbe was about to pass away. The Barditchever Rebbe was there. The Kuznetzer Maggid was there at his deathbed, and the Barditchever Rebbe, the Kedushas Levi, wrote the Sefer Kedushas Levi. He said, "I tell you, I'm leaving here." And he was a very powerful soul. And he says, "I'm not letting them bring me into the Garden of Eden until they bring Mashiach. I'm not letting them bring me to my place unless they bring Mashiach. They have to bring the Messiah right then and there. I'm not going to let them." You know? And the Kuznitzer's there, and the Barditchever Rebbe passes away, and Mashiach doesn't come. Years later, okay, Barditchever Rebbe comes to the Kuznetzer Maggid, this other rabbi, right, years later, in a dream. It comes to him in a dream. And the rabbi, the Kuznetzer, says to him, what happened? Why didn't Mashiach come? You said you swore you were not going to go to your place unless they brought Mashiach, and Mashiach came. You swore. What happened? He says, first he said, soon you're going to join me. Okay? Good news, bad news. It's all good news. The second thing is you have no idea. You have no idea. The details, the perfection, that every single thing is happening in this world is so perfectly orchestrated for the absolute best masterpiece. You'd never want to change. I wouldn't want to change a thing. In other words, the reason why Mashiach didn't come is because I saw what every single thing that needs to transpire in everybody's lives, and it's so perfect you wouldn't want to change a thing. It's so perfect. Okay? That's Atzilut. Okay? Berea is mostly light, and I didn't write a good word there. Linatiti. I don't know if you got it in my misspelling. My misspelling is right. Right? And a little bit of darkness. Mostly light, a little bit of darkness. Yitzir is half-half. And Asiya is all darkness and complete concealment. Hence, we are in the world of Atzilus. Our souls, either voluntarily or mostly really involuntarily, volunteer to jump off the ship of Ein Sof, and volunteer to come down into this world in complete darkness and complete concealment. In order to what? Play hide and seek. Okay? We have to find God. We have to make the relationship with God. We have to break away the concealment. Okay? We're going to stop here, and I'll answer some questions for a few minutes, and then we'll continue Mirz Hashem next time. Okay?
Did you say we're in Atzilut or Asiya?
We're in Asiya, sorry. Any questions?